Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Sustainable Library. So this week we're talking about sustainable fashion, and it's a very exciting week because we all love fashion and clothes. But what I wanted to do specifically was share with you my journey from basically being a shopaholic, like shopping addict almost, to going more towards slow fashion and slow shopping. So I'm gonna share my journey with you and share a few of my favorite items, clothing items currently that I have with you guys to help you understand how I make this journey and this transition. So if I say I was something of a shopaholic when it comes to clothes, I'm not exaggerating. At 16, I had a walk-in closet and rows of shoes and clothes and just everything. And it would sometimes get to a point where I didn't even know what was in my cupboard. Whenever I got some pocket money or I got money for my birthday, what I wanted was to go shopping. And on one hand, it was a really nice kind of thing to do because it was something that me and my mom and my gran did together, and it was a very much an emotional and a bonding experience for us as well. But eventually I moved out of my parents' house into my own place, but I still ended up having kind of two cupboards. I would have, for different seasons, I'd have some of my clothes in my parents' house and some of them at my house. And eventually I moved to the UK to come do my master's at Oxford, and that was the first time I was confronted with the fact that I would have to, for the next 6 months, only take one big suitcase of clothes. It was terrible. I tried everything. I used backpacks. I did everything I could to fit as much in as I possibly could. And it was a rude wake-up call. I threw out a lot of things at that stage, but eventually I went back to South Africa, and a lot of stuff stayed in South Africa because I mostly packed for the winter. So I went back to South Africa and I kind of fell into the same habits. You know, you have clothes and you buy more clothes and all of those things. And eventually I started moving more. I moved in with my husband, so I had to start sharing cupboard space. And I just got to a point where it was like, oh my word, I have so much clothes and I really don't need all of this. And then 2 years ago, we moved to the UK. And again, I was confronted with this idea that I would have to pack my whole life, not just clothes, into basically 3 suitcases. It was a pretty permanent move that we were making, and I had to pack not just for one season this time, but for the next kind of 18 months at that stage. And it was at that point when we moved to the UK 2 years ago that it really hit me. And I was like, wow, I have way too much clothes. I also started looking into living more sustainably, and I started realizing I don't even know where half my clothes come from. I don't know what they're made of. I don't know who made them. I mean, we've always heard about, there should be no child labor being used to make your clothes and those kind of things, but I never ever thought about that before when I bought clothes. And eventually I was just like, well, I need to make a change. And I decided to change the way I buy clothes. And it came down to 3 things. First one is about doing research. So I would go away and I would start doing research about the clothes that I buy and the companies that I buy from. The second thing was basically secondhand and reuse. And this was buying secondhand, but it would also be, getting secondhand clothes from other people that I knew. Family members, my husband, this is his shirt. But also secondhand as in donating clothes, and also giving some of my clothes to friends and family, especially when we moved overseas. And then the third one was all about kind of slowing down when it came to the purchases and not making impulse buys, which is a big thing that I did. As soon as I had money, usually back in the day, I would just go and buy some clothes. So those were the three things. So I'm going to share some items with you guys today to kind of explain how I got to making the buying decisions that I do now. So as I said, the first kind of step in my sustainable fashion, sustainable buying habits kind of change that I made was research. So these are some of my favorite new shoes that I bought, and they are called Toms. They're from a company called Toms, and these are vegan shoes, but that's not really the reason I bought them. I bought them because firstly I wanted some new slip-on, very comfy walking kind of shoes, but I bought them because Toms is a company that I researched and I believe in their ethics and their way of working. So for every shoe that you buy, they donate a pair of shoes to people in developing countries and underprivileged environments and communities. And for me, that was part of research, starting to look at the ethics of companies. Where are the products made? What is their stance on not just child labor, but slave labor in general? You know, what kind of environmental impacts do their clothes have that they're making? And also, what happens with the item afterwards? Another thing that goes very much hand in hand with the ethics of the company, you can see in like their packaging and their tags. So this is from Thought and BAM, two of my favorite brands here in the UK. And it's because both of these, the tags, we know that usually tags from clothes we buy in a shop, whether, you know, it's Woolworths in South Africa, Primark, you know, any of those kind of chain stores, this part will be plastic and these tags will be coated with plastic, and you can't even recycle them. So with Thought and BAM, their tags are, firstly, they're cardboard, so they're fully recyclable. And also the little string is actual string. And then they fasten them to the clothes with a little safety pin. So you can see, you know, you have the little safety pin there. And you can collect these. So I reuse these little, the rope, I use that for all kinds of art projects. I have safety pins and I recycle the rest. And then both of these companies also have very sustainable packaging. So it's either biodegradable or it's 100% recyclable in kind of cardboard or in paper bags. And that's part of the ethics of the companies that I want to support. So the second step in my kind of sustainable fashion buying habit change that I made was all about secondhand. So as I mentioned, this shirt is my husband's. It was my husband's, and it's one of my favorite shirts to wear now. I love it, and I have a lot of his old clothes that I love wearing because I love wearing oversized clothes. But I also share clothes with friends and family. Me and my cousin share quite a lot of clothes and shoes because we have more or less the same size feet. So, you know, you can do that kind of thing. I also do shop secondhand. So, for example, this dress, which is one of my favorite summer dresses, is secondhand. And the wonderful thing about secondhand for me is that most of the time you buy them from charity shops. In South Africa, it could be something like Hospice. Here in the UK, there's so many different charity shops that you can support. One of my favorites is Mind. And you basically, you're donating, but you're also getting something for yourself. So for me, secondhand is a great option. One thing I will mention though is that we can't all go into only buying secondhand, because then there will be no clothes to buy secondhand anymore. So we need to find that balance between buying some things new but from ethical and sustainable companies, and then buying other things secondhand. And those can be things that are smaller items, or just things that you see, like for example this dress. If you do still like a bit of retail therapy, I would suggest going into your secondhand store or your charity shop and going to buy there, because at least then you are supporting a charity or a local small business. And then my last kind of change that I made was moving towards more slow fashion and towards making less kind of impulse decisions. Also, slowing down my process. So if you watch my Instagram stories, you'll know I recently got into road cycling, and I really wanted a cycling shirt. So you'll see this one, and it's from DHB. But the thing is, they're mostly made from Lycra, like most sports items are, sports clothing is. But I wanted something that was a bit more sustainable. So once again, I slowed down my choice, and I was like, I'm not going to just jump into going and buying the first best, cycling shirt. And my husband, who's been cycling for a while, knew where to go and look, and he helped me, and we did research, and we found this cycling shirt from DHB, made from merino wool, which is actually amazing because merino wool also uses less water to produce the garment, but also it is just more sustainable, and it doesn't have any microplastics that come off it when you wash it. It's also great for exercise because it keeps you nice and warm, and it has great moisture control. And the last item I want to share with you guys is my beautiful yellow rain jacket. So this is just to show you guys that I don't only buy secondhand or small items. I do still buy beautiful, slightly more expensive clothing items, but this was not an impulse buy. You can ask my husband, and I had been saying I wanted a yellow rain jacket for over a year. But I wanted to make sure that I bought the right one. For this kind of item, it wasn't just about, the material or the sustainability of the company. It was also about buying something that I knew that I would wear for years and years to come. And that kind of decision takes time to make. And I found this one at Thought, and I waited as well because it was quite expensive, and I waited until it was on sale. I tried to do this thing where I kind of step back and say, I'll see something that I like, and then I'll step back and say, let's give it a week. If it's still there, then I'll buy it. And I still want it, then I'll buy it. And that served me so well with all the big, kind of more expensive items that I've bought, because I kind of just took that step back and didn't make any impulse decisions when I bought them. So I hope that today's video has shown you that I didn't stop buying clothes when I started making the decision to go into sustainable fashion. I just kind of changed the way that I was buying my clothes, and I slowed down my process. As with all things in sustainable living, I very much think it goes hand in hand with taking a slower approach, not rushing your decision, not rushing through life, and making sure that you buy things that truly give you joy. So I really hope that some of the tips that I shared with you guys today have helped you think a bit more about how you will change your buying habits. But also that I've showed you a few interesting brands that you can possibly look into. Thank you so much for watching today, and I look forward to seeing you again. As always, please like and subscribe to my channel, and let's all live sustainably.